Okay, so I've just got it running. My last card got full while I was filming that, so I don't exactly know how much you've seen, but I got it to run and got it to idle with the idle control motor. So what that means now is I'm going to plug up my intercooler piping. I just need to make a elbow to get it to the turbo here. I'm going to tighten back down my wastegate so it sits there. And yeah, I think it should be pretty good. I just need to add a tiny bit more coolant to the engine, and then I should be able to drop it off the jack stands and take it for a burn around the block to see if it's all good. And then once that's done, I need to make up an exhaust system for it. I don't know how well I'll be able to do that, considering I don't really have any flanges kicking around, but I will persevere and try and get this thing on the road today. So the old turbo I had was a GT3076 as well, but this one's a 0.60 AR front housing and the other was a 0.7. So with this one, I think it's got a 2.25 or a 2-inch outlet. So what I did was I took a second one of these and cut a little nick out of it so that it would come down to a smaller size, and I sat it inside and then clamped it on. I may have a tiny boost leak, but that should be alright. But yeah, I've made up all of the intercooler pipes. I need to run my wastegate line and then I should be good for a drive. The other thing I need to do is take the bonnet off and cut a nick out of it, just so I can have it close on those coils there. So I've pulled the old exhaust off. I'm going to cut off the cat here and then hollow it out. Oh, sorry, it's already been hollowed out because it's like some sort of weird commercial vehicle. I think they didn't need like catalytic converters with cells in them or something. But I'm going to cut it out and then widen it out so it's 2.75 inch and weld it in line so it looks like I have a cat. And if you're gonna cut your exhaust off to bash your cat, just make sure you really get them with your fists. Yeah, so I'll just cut this off now, see what's inside it, and then hollow it out if I can and get it to the size of 2.75 inch. Then I'll extend the downpipe that I've made a tiny bit, then weld a flange on the bottom so that I can then have the rest of the exhaust almost one piece, if it'll be easy-ish to get in and out. I'm thinking for now I may just have a dump down here somewhere, because it has to be after the passenger compartment, but on this it's a ute, so anywhere here just before the diff is okay, I think. Okay, so I just cut the end off the cat and there's actually no material in there at all. It looks like the last guy that's owned this car has done some kind of exhaust work on it so that it doesn't have a cat. He'd also deleted the EGR system, so that leads me to believe he had some idea of what he wanted with the engine so that it made a bit more power for what he needed. So yeah, I'm gonna cut the same like this off the back here. When I cut this side off, I got the two separate pieces like this, so I can just hollow this plate out now to a 2.75 inch, then just tack weld it back on, make it look a bit nice, then weld it straight back on with the 2.75 inch pipe out there. So yeah, it's good. Okay, so I've made up the end plates of the fake cat, and I've just welded along the back and then ground them flat, and I'm going to just run a bead around it so it looks pretty good. But first, before I do that, I'm going to bore out the hole and cut off a stub of the pipe size that I want. Then I'm going to weld that on and then weld around the inside, because that'll make it a nice good connection, and then that'll make it easier to install it in the car if I've got a stub end to weld onto. Okay, so I've just yanked my bonnet off and I'm going to cut the webbing out just here where I've marked so that my coils will be able to fit when I close the bonnet. So yeah, I'm just going to I'm going to throw a cutting disc on my grinder, yeah, and just rip out that exact portion there. I'm going to lose my AEM sticker, which I'm kind of sad about, but I can always get more, hey? Anyway, that's what I'm going to do now. I took it for its first drive around the block yesterday and it ran pretty well. So now what I have to do is sort of just button up everything. There was quite a few rattles and all of that. There was one big one was the intercooler piping hitting on the top of the valve cover just there. So I'm going to see if I can fool around, maybe even glue a little bit of rubber on the top of the valve cover there. And yeah, apart from that, all I have to do now, yeah, as I said, is button everything up. I need to put the plug back in the firewall. Put a little wrap of tape around my loom thing, put the bolts back on, and yeah, tie together the holes for the charcoal canister where it was originally. And yeah, I'm very pleased it's running. It's taken a lot of time and worried me a bit that I may not get it going, but I got it and I'm very happy. Okay, so it is the following week. I got the car fixed on Sunday last week, so I drove it every day this week except today, which is Friday. So it ran perfectly Monday to Thursday, ran fine, and then when I got in it to head home from work on Thursday, which was yesterday, it didn't start. So it's always been a bit of a pain the whole time to get started. I feel like it's way too rich on the cold start map, so I got to fool around with that a bit. But what had happened is the TPS connector had come off, so when in doing that, it didn't know how much air was going into the engine. So what it did was pretty much just send my cylinders full of fuel. And when it did that, it flooded the engine, and then I really couldn't start it because everything was covered in fuel and no spark would happen. So I pulled all the spark plugs out and then just sat around at work for about half an hour and then whacked them back in, and she started up fine. But also in doing that, I noticed that my exhaust is buggered. You can see it hanging down there. So I had just welded on exhaust and had a side pipe going on out the other side of the car, but it split and then dragged along the ground on my way home. So I'm going to redo my exhaust. I've got the one here. It's pretty disgusting. I'm going to upgrade to a 3-inch later down the track. This is a temporary one. But yeah, so that's the update for this week at least. So this weekend I'll hopefully get this one fixed and then move on to my patrol, which is fun. And yeah, that's it. Runs pretty rich on startup, but it's pretty good apart from that. So right now I haven't got a wastegate dump pipe on. I quickly fabbed one up yesterday, but it whacked on my steering shaft and made a really hell of a racket, so I just got that off for now, and I'm just not going to gate it and open it up because I'll probably melt the firewall if I do that. It's running pretty well. I'm having a little bit of trouble with the idle air control motor. It's a 3-wire Toyota one, and it's pulse width modulated depending on how much to open and close the valve. So it's a bit weird. There's so much G-force, the handbrake pulls itself out and the light goes on. So that means I can't use the handbrake switch for anti-lag or whatever, because it'll just shit itself. The Hilux got me to work and started up fine every day of the week. So the only thing I'm having issues with is the hot starts. All the air in the manifold pipe, in the the intercooler piping heat soaks a bunch, and then when you start it, the intake temperature sensor says, "Oh shit, this air is really hot. Let's pull all the fuel out." And yeah, so it goes really lean on hot starts. So I'm gonna have to play around with the hot start stuff on the ECU. I don't know if there's actually a table for your hot starts, but I'll have a look. But yeah, anyway, so it's run really fine. So what I'm going to get working on is just crimping on the proper connectors for my coils to make it not look like someone in Uganda did it. As well as that, you may not be able to see this, but see if we can lean over here a bit. Hang on, I'll grab my light. So down in there, you can see a little copper pipe. So I've bolted that to the block, and I'm going to run a tube into that, which I'm going to run into the cabin. That's the tube there. And then I'm going to run it into the side of these headphones, which I've drilled a hole out in, and that'll allow me to listen for audible pinging. So that means I'll have a bit of a gauge of how much timing I can add and pull from the tune and how to go with it. So before I do that, I just need to sort out a wastegate dump a bit. And yeah, got a few leaks on my manifold. But yeah, so once that's all sorted, then yeah, the car should be in a pretty good nick. I'll just have to suss a wastegate dump and then I should be Gucci. I'm going to be installing a bunch of switches in the Hilux, so I've got the digital inputs coiled up right under where the glove box is, so I'm going to be uncoiling them and choosing which wires I want to use. I'm going to have 3 switches hooked up, I think, so one of them is going to be for a safety cutoff, so no one can start the car without having that switch flicked on. I'm going to hide it. And then the other one I'm going to run for anti-lag, and then another switch, I'll see what I want to do for that one. But yeah, so I'm going to just yank the panel off under the driver's seat and then do a bit of a wire tuck under there because I've got nothing else to do. I'm sounding a bit sick, as you can hear, so hope that doesn't get the better of me. Corona. Right, I'm going to apologise for the lighting because it's getting kind of late and this carport doesn't light up that well. But I've yanked everything down, so I'm planning on putting this switch in the front of the panel here. And this is a cool one because it'll light up when it's on and off, I think. It's got 3 prongs on it, 3 outputs, terminals, whatever. Yeah, but if we come around the other side here, yeah, got my knock headphones, got all my digital inputs here. So my plan right now is to put digital input 1 to the anti-lag switch. I believe I can set that as either a high or a low side, so I think I'll just set it as a low side so it'll just ground out. And then digital input 2, I don't know what I'm going to do for that one, but I'm also going to set up the shift light, so the shift light kicks on the check engine light. I'm just going to do that because, you know, like, it'll look kind of cool. I'm not going to bother putting the check engine light to the check engine output on the ECU because I just pretty much always have my laptop hooked up anyway. But yeah, that's what I'm going to get to do. I'm going to just do it all and then explain how I did it because you guys know how to wire and that. But yeah, I'll point out all my terminals and show you how I did it. Okay, so I've got both the wires for the tacho and then the check engine light running to this double barrel Deutsch plug here. And so they run to two auxiliary outputs. So one of them is going to run to the tacho because it's the tacho wire. And then the other one, which is going to the check engine light, is going to be my shift light. So that's going to be kind of cool. When you get up to high RPM, your engine light's going to go banging on and off. But yeah, so hopefully those wires have gone together. And yeah, I'll take it for a spin and configure my shift light settings. Okay, again, I apologise for the poor lighting, but I've got my rocker switch here. So because this is going to act as a low side for a digital input 1, I've got the wire from the digital input, this grey one here, coming into the top of it. And then the bottom wire there earths out to a, don't know if you can see that. No, there's a screw back there that connects to the metal part of the support bracket for the whole dash, which is earthed out to the side of the car. So this is going to act as the low side switch for digital input 1, which will be my anti-lag switch. So that's going to be cool. I don't know if I'll bother labelling it. It just looks wicked. It's in full view of the passenger, so if you've got a lovely lady in the car with you, it's a big flex flicking up your rocket switch, you know. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to see if I can put the dash back together now, and maybe I'll take it for a spin and configure my shift light and my anti-lag a little bit. Right, one more thing that I did before I'm going to take it out is, don't know if you can see, but in between the flanges there I've got a little gasket. So I cut a little gasket out of canaf paper, and about that size. And yeah, so as you can see, there was an exhaust leak down here. See all the black shit on the side just there? Yeah, and it was spraying black all over the body here. But I don't really care, you know, it's the Hilux. But yeah, so I've whacked a little canaf paper gasket in there and compressed it down. So hopefully that fixes the exhaust leak. It's really temporary. You can see it's the ghetto as shit 2-bolt exhaust flange that's bolted. I ovaled out the whole diameter and then connected it up to the 3-inch outlet on the turbo. So down the track I will upgrade to a full 3-inch exhaust, but this was just one that I threw together to get it running, and it's actually holding up alright. But yeah, okay, I'm going to do a few checks, make sure I've got oil and everything, and then I'm going to take it out for a little spin. Okay guys, so I hope you can see this. I'll talk you through. So I've got anti-lag hooked up now. So anti-lag's hooked up to digital input 1. What you also got to do is set the system so when it's on, that's system armed, because if it's always on, then no matter when you drive around or whatever, if your speed selection isn't hooked up, or your gear selection, whatever, speed sensor, then it'll just always be on and you'll start sputtering while you're driving down the road. But if you go to digital input 1, here I've hooked it up to anti-lag, I've put it on an AC request, and you set the on level low, so when I get my switch here and flick that on, you'll see that the anti-lag becomes active, and that way when I go up to RPM it starts to sputter. So yeah, I'm going to dial in the RPM for the anti-lag now. I'm a bit weirded out because it's sort of acting a bit like two-step, which is not really what it's meant to be. Two-step's a separate launch control system. But yeah, with the shift light, I've hooked that up to my auxiliary output number 6. So auxiliary output 6 is hooked up to the check engine light. So the check engine light over on this side comes on when you get to about 5,000 RPM. I'm not going to do that here because I'm in a residential area, but I'm going to play around with my anti-lag, see if I can get it to what I want it to do. The stock valve springs should be alright with just 5 pounds of boost, you know. I've got bigger ones on the way, but it's going to be a bit of a pain changing them with the way the 3RZ's layout is.